All right, what is going on, folks? We are in a town in France called Argentière, and we're going to be hiking up this today. And when I say we, that means me and this guy over here.
Hello.
So we thought this hike would be kind of a fun test to test a few different devices. Ray's going to be doing an Enduro versus Vertix 2 comparison, and I'm going to be doing a Vertix 2 versus Fenix 6 Pro Solar and Fenix 6 Sapphire. So Ray's video is going to be about battery life, maps, and quite a few other things. Mine's going to be more about the Vertix 2 versus Fenix 6 Pro and Sapphire mapping. So we've got the routes loaded up here, and we're just basically going to be using wrist-based heart rate for all of these watches today. So that way it's kind of an even playing ground. And we'll also be testing the navigation capabilities of both these devices with the maps, as well as the lack of maps with the Enduro. So we did kind of start the GPS a little bit earlier, so that way we could actually get started pretty quickly, but all of them did acquire GPS rather quickly though. Oh, and by the way, we did start out with 100% on all of the devices using Ray's gigantic battery. He's got a big battery. So I think one of the funniest things about this video is that I'm not sure if you guys have seen my Longs Peak Mount Meeker vlog style video where I used the Fenix 6 and the COROS VERTX 1, funny enough. That was a video where I hiked / trail run with my friends Elijah and Bruce. And coincidentally, my friend Elijah just got done running the UTMB, and we're gonna try to meet up with him later on tonight. So hopefully that works out. Not sure if anybody noticed, but Ray is carrying 2 baguettes in his backpack because backpack is meant for all the essentials. So those are the turn indicators on the Garmin's, indicating that we need to take a right. Ray, I'm not sure if we should have eaten all those peanut M&Ms yesterday.
You mean the 1 kilo family size pack?
We didn't finish it, did we? Not quite.
We left a couple.
Okay. So with the Vertix 2, when you load in a route like this, you'll give a nice elevation profile of what you're supposed to do. So you can see that we probably made it halfway on our first climb, 1,800 feet of elevation gain. The Fenix says around 1950. My Fenix does tend to overestimate elevation a little bit. You can't beat these views though. All right, so what is going to be pretty interesting today is the COROS VERTX 2. It does have the dual frequency all satellites mode, which basically is like everything. So you can basically turn everything on. It's supposed to have just basically some insane accuracy, and it's going to be very interesting on these very steep rock faces that we're hiking against here. Right here especially, we're going to be right up next to these rocks, so we're gonna have to see how well the Vertix 2 does in terms of not bouncing the GPS signal versus the Fenix. So what's cool about the Fenix models too is that when you do load in a course, you do get Climb Pro as well, which is kind of like, are we there yet in terms of climbing? And as you can see, we aren't there yet. So we've got quite a bit of ways to go. So it looks like 1,500 feet left, which is indicated in blue, with an average grade of 19%. So this is kind of where the trail ends and the ladders begin. Okay, so here I am right next to a ladder, as you can tell, and this is the view out here, which is kind of awesome. much elevation do we have?
I think we're at 681 meters.
681 meters. Okay, so I'll put the conversion for feet for all of you folks in the US, including myself. That's a ways down there, and keep on trucking. Baguettes are still safe. We are nearing the top of our first climb, and the Vertix 2 has about 2,600 feet of climbing so far. Then Fenix 6, 2831. Again, we'll have to see how that matches up with GPS elevation data after the fact, as well as a couple other devices that we have. The view is awesome over there. However, looking around this corner, I don't know. Could be coming in some weather.
Yeah, suspect when we get to the top, we'll switch to the half route that we have, which isn't really half. It's just 15 kilometers as opposed to 20 kilometers. But it keeps us a little lower down in the trees, protects us a bit from the weather that comes in. So.
And when he says suspect, we're going to switch to the half route. I mean, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a area where quite a few trails converge, and it's definitely good justification for a device with maps. So this is what it looks like on the Fenix, and that purple line that you see is the route that we loaded in, so that definitely helps. So it means we need to go straight, but again, it is definitely nice to know which direction you should be going. And then this is what it looks like on the COROS VERTIX. So there's also going to be a difference in terms of how you use the maps in the Vertix 2 versus the Fenix. So on the Fenix models, it's basically an all button configuration. There's 5 buttons on the Fenix, and then with the Vertix 2, it has 3 buttons along with the touchscreen, and then one of those buttons is a crown dial. And although I'm not a huge fan of the crown dial on COROS watches, I have found that the crown dial along with the touchscreen, using it on the map interface, is really a pretty fantastic experience. So you can browse the map using the touchscreen, and then you can use the crown dial to zoom in and out of the map, and it's really just a great experience. And then with the Fenix models, what you have to do is you have to long press the middle left-hand button to enable the pan and zoom controls, and then you can toggle through those pan and zoom controls using the upper right-hand key. And then you'll use the up and down keys on the left side of the watch to either pan or zoom. And then when it comes to the actual maps, I do find the map detail to be a lot better on the Fenix models, one of which is going to be the labels, but the other of which is that there's a little bit more contrast with some of the maps. So basically I'm going to show you a screenshot of the COROS VERTIX 2 right here, and it's kind of hard to differentiate the trail from the rest of the terrain. Okay, so we're on the home stretch, and if you can see right up there, there's like a little cabin or lodge that we're going to be hitting. So I don't know, what, maybe 5-10 minutes?
We are so far from that cabin. He has no idea. 5-10 minutes. City boy or something.
I think I'm done with the M&M energy. When do we get to eat the baguettes?
At the cabin, that's 5 minutes away, you said.
That was 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And guess what? 20 minutes later, I think it was 20 minutes, we have reached the top. Beautiful. Stop here for a few snacks, refreshments. Can't go too long though, because that weather does look a little bit spicy over there. Looks kind of sketchy.
We got butter, we have baguettes, apples, blueberries, way more bread than we need, and we got just like a bag of snacks.
Way more bread than we need.
Way more bread.
He doesn't know me. Since that weather is coming in and we decided to change directions, one very advantageous thing about the Garmin Fenix is that we can actually reroute. So what we're gonna do is we're going to go into the navigation settings and actually choose a point of interest to re-navigate to. Now below this around me option, there's going to be a list of all these points of interest below it. So we actually saw, funny enough, this microbrasserie as we were hiking through. So that's 3.7 miles away in a southward direction. Go ahead and do that. We're going to click go.
There we go.
All right, there we go. All right, it should reroute us at this point. All right, so we've made it down at least a couple hundred feet at this point from the summit, and it's definitely starting to warm up already. So you see what's happening now is that Ray is actually going off in the wrong direction because he hasn't been able to reroute. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave him for dead over there, and we're gonna go this direction. Okay, so we are finally down to pretty much tree line, and it's definitely much warmer. So we've shed our clothes. Ray's down there. Baguette status at 1. So we did finish 1 baguette up at the top. We probably would have finished both if the weather would be warmer, but it was yeah, it got kind of brisk up there. So should be drinking a couple beers in like 45 minutes or so.
I thought it was 5 to 10 minutes.
5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll have to take a look at some of this data, which should be really fun. Let's now talk about navigation in terms of loading in a route to your watch. So right now with COROS devices, it's a little bit cumbersome to get a route into your watch. So you kind of have to email yourself a file, open up in files, and then open up in the COROS app, and then you can get it to your watch. With the Garmin devices, you can automatically do this by just creating a Strava route, and then it'll automatically stick over. That will be changing in the future. So eventually, hopefully that'll actually be a wash between those two. However, when it comes to actually navigating, during your navigation, the one advantage that Garmin does have at this point is that they do have turn alerts, or basically turn notifications. So when you get close to your trail juncture, it'll actually prompt you to make a turn. And with today's activity, that definitely helped. According to Garmin's Climb Pro, we have 11 feet to go. Can you make it?
No. The call is done right now.
Okay, so as you can see from the watch right now, we are a mere 8 feet from our destination, which is the microbrasserie. Job well done. Done. Okay, so we're all done with that hike. We've had our beers, and it's actually a few days later, and I've had the opportunity to look over those GPS tracks really carefully, and there's definitely some interesting stuff to check out there. But first, let's go over the device summaries. So in terms of the data that these devices actually collected, there's quite a bit of interesting things to look at here. So the left screenshot is from the Vertix 2 that I wore on my left wrist. The second screenshot is the native recording of the Fenix 6 Sapphire that I wore on my right wrist. The next screenshot over is the Fenix 6 Sapphire uploaded to Strava with the elevation corrected. And the last screenshot is from the Fenix 6 Pro Stoller that was attached to my backpack. First off, the distances were all reasonably close to each other, so there's really not too much to worry about there, but the Vertix 2 did have the shortest distance, and I'm going to bring that back up here in a little bit when we look at the GPS tracks. For the elevation, all the devices were very close to each other, and what's interesting is that the Fenix 6 Sapphire that I was wearing on my right wrist was recording a little high for the first portion of the climb, but normalized after a little bit. The screenshot from Strava has Strava's corrected elevation figure, which bases the elevation gain off of their base maps, and that was just a smidge higher than what was collected from the barometric altimeters. But now let's take a close look at the GPS tracks, and this is where things get super interesting, and I actually have 2 examples for you. That hike at Chamonix and then another hike that we just did today, and there's some stark differences between the two. For the most part, Ray and I were together pretty much the entire time, except for a few times that we went off and did our own thing, but I won't be including those sections. I'll just be focusing on the times that we were on the same part of the trail. So starting off in town, both Vertix 2s were pretty good, but Ray's Vertix 2 did veer off a corner right here, and the Fenix 6 was on the other side of the road. And then starting up the trail, for the most part, all the devices were pretty good, except there's this kind of general wiggliness to the Enduro and the Fenix tracks. With both the Vertix 2 tracks, those were smoother over the course of the hike, and we'll see that throughout. So what I want to point out is this section right here as we were going up the ladders that we saw earlier where Ray wasn't really having it. So if you look at the orange and purple tracks, which are the Vertix 2s, even though they weren't directly on the trail, you can see that it's a smooth track and they didn't wander like the other tracks that kind of had a party, it seems like. As we descended, things were pretty good for all the devices and all of them were tracking okay, but there was a bit of that general jitteriness to the Enduro and Fenixes. However, let's take a look at the tracks from the hike that we did today, and things were quite a bit different for some reason or another. So starting out, the Fenix 6 that I was wearing thought I started a ways back, and then the Vertix 2 I had in my backpack was a bit off, even though I started right here where the purple track is, which is the other Vertix 2 I had in my left wrist. Things were okay on the street as we got started, but then on these corners, all the devices got a little off, with the purple Vertix 2 being the most off. Then on this straightaway, everyone woke up and things got in line for a bit, but wait for it, on these switchbacks, things really took a turn for all of them. If there was one device that was quote-unquote the best here, I'd say that was probably the Vertix 2 that I was wearing on my right wrist in purple, but the other two were kind of a mess. However, things did get back in line through the streets as we made it up this mountain town, and all of them looked pretty solid. I'm going to fast forward a bit to this ridgeline. So this was a wide open ridgeline with zero obstructions that could affect GPS. So in theory, everything should have looked pretty good, but the Fenix 6 got off track here at the beginning, but then later on, both Vertixes were off the trail, which I found to be a little bit odd. Overall, I'd say there's really no clear winner for this hike, where all of them had some issue in one way or the other, where we saw both Vertix 2s get off track, and then the Fenix 6 did have that same sort of wiggliness that we saw on the other hike. So when it comes to GPS accuracy, the Vertix 2 can provide some extremely accurate data, but just like all devices, is not going to be perfect. So the Fenix 6, well, not super amazing either by any means, but what I would say is that all the devices still provide fairly similar total distances. Oh, and then in terms of battery life, on that hike, I was playing around with the devices quite a bit, where I was changing from the map screen to the regular data screens. So I don't think that was a really accurate example. So I have another example where we went on a 5-hour bike ride where I did use mapping as well as navigation. But what I did is I left both devices on the map page the entire time, because I found that to be the most taxing on the battery, because the display has to constantly redraw the page. And on that ride, the Fenix 6 Sapphire used 25% of the battery, where the Vertix 2, wait for it, it used only 10% of the battery. Now, there are a couple considerations here. Is that first of all, I was using a Fenix 6 Sapphire, which is the standard version, not the 6X, which is closer in size to the Vertix 2. But the other consideration is that my Fenix 6 Sapphire is over 2 years old at this point, so there is going to be a little bit of battery degradation over time. So when it comes down to it, there's not necessarily a clear winner here, because when using the maps, the Vertix 2, I think in my opinion, it kind of wins just because it's really easy to use with the touchscreen along with the crown dial. But with the Fenix 6, you do have more detailed maps as well as more robust navigation capabilities like the turn notifications. Anyhow, that's a full rundown of the mapping and navigation capabilities of the Fenix 6 Sapphire and the Vertix 2. And if you did like the video or found the information in this video useful, make sure to hit that like button down below. And also make sure to check out Ray's video on the Vertix 2 versus the Enduro, which should be coming out in the, I think, next 5 to 10 minutes?
Give or take, yeah.
And also make sure to subscribe for plenty more sports tech videos that are coming soon. In the meantime, happy running or riding, and we will see you in the next video.